So Sony is looks to be is finally getting a taste of their own medicine for being as greedy as they are. We got a lot to discuss on this video, so stay tuned in to the video that's about to start in just a couple of seconds. Let's begin. Catch 'em all. Alright, so over the last few months or so, Sony's been getting more and more greedy by the minute and by the day, and now officially they are under a lawsuit right now because of game purchases of digital content only bought and only able to purchase on the PlayStation stores. And you can't go to like a GameStop, you can't go to like a Best Buy, at Walmart, or whatever the case is, and you can't even buy like games that are on a little card that you could just buy at a store and enter the code, and then it'll say, well, this is the game that it is, and then you hit redeem, and then you completely own the game. It has to be permanently on the PlayStation Store. And the reason they're doing this is because, well, they're not getting this, so the only way to do it is if you buy it directly on their store. But this is not the only thing that Sony's been greedy with. They're charging developers, as you already know on my last video, they're charging developers to allow crossplay on their console when you got Valve, you got Microsoft Xbox, and you got Nintendo Switch, that literally does not require developers to pay them to allow crossplay on their system. It's been confirmed that Sony is the only company that is charging developers for crossplay on their console. This is, like I said on my last video, this is the most greediest and shittiest way to be, especially to a consumer and especially to developers. Like, it just literally is. And the whole crossplay situation from back in 2018, they kept trying to deny it and trying to deny it. And when crossplay was already enabled on the PS4 before, they just wanted to shut it off because they're like, nope, you want to play with your friends? Hey, guess what? You gotta buy a PS4. You gotta buy our console. We want money. If you want to play with your friends, you come to us. That's just how Sony was. But there's also another thing that came up over the last couple of months, and that is a CMOS battery issue. Now, the PS4, now the PlayStation 3, it's pretty much okay right now. The main thing that people are worried about is not having access to, especially their hard copy video game collection. As you know, I got tons and tons of PlayStation 4 games, and I like to still have access to them in the far future, like when either Sony shuts down the PlayStation 4's servers on the store itself, which it will happen eventually, but definitely not anytime soon. Probably another like 15 years from now is when we'll most likely, get it. But at the same time, it's like, what, we didn't buy these games to literally just let them collect dust and then not have access to them. We bought them to play for as long as we want until they officially get rotting out or just completely stop working or just randomly break. Like, we bought the games to play at any given time, even if it's 1 year after they came out and the PlayStation 4 came out, or 20 years later after the PS4 and the game came out. We want access to the games anytime that we want. So, and I'm telling you, the CMOS battery issue inside the PlayStation 4 and also the PlayStation 5 that's been confirmed. The PS3, like I said, it's not a really big issue. The PS3, you just won't have access to digital games, but your physical games, they'll still work just like as they would right now. So the PlayStation 3 is pretty much covered. Even when Sony disables the store like they about did, but they finally noticed that there was still money to be made, and there still is a decent chunk of people that still play and have a PlayStation 3 that still love to buy games digital on the PS3 consoles themselves, and Sony eventually rethink their decision. So, but either way, the PlayStation 3 is completely alright. No matter when Sony shuts down the store or the CMOS battery ends up dying, you will have fully access to all of your physical games on PlayStation 3, and that doesn't matter if you have the latest super slim model PS3 or the most popular middle slim model PS3 or even the amazing fat model PlayStation 3. Personally, in my opinion, I think the fat model PlayStation 3 is the best, not just because it's the only model that can play PlayStation 2 games. Only a couple of the fat models can. But also the looks of it. It looks futuristic. It just looks like a big boy. Like the fat PlayStation 3 absolutely looks beautiful. And just because PlayStation 2 games are on it, and for its design, I think the fat PlayStation 3 is the better looking PlayStation 3 out of all the models. But it doesn't matter if you have the latest Super Slim or the Slim or one of the launch fat model PS3s, you will still have access to your physical games. Just put the disc in and you're ready to go. But it's not that way with the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. So immediately once the CMOS battery dies inside either the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 is a little bit better, but it's not completely 100% the best. But some games you can play offline without an internet connection and a CMOS battery dying. You can still play some games that will not require an internet or a date connection for trophies. But on the PlayStation 4, it's mostly like 95% of all of your physical games, they will not work when there's no internet connection and the CMOS battery ends up being dead. You will not have access to your PlayStation 4 games, and that goes for not just digital, but physical copies of games. And a lot of consumers right now that have a PlayStation 4, including myself, are like really worried because we won't have access to our games. All of my games are right over there on my stand that used to be right there that I moved. And I love to have access to them, especially games like Skyrim Special Edition, Red Dead Redemption 2, even though I know it's going to come out on the PlayStation 5 and Series X probably in the next year or two. But maybe one of these days in the future, I want to play the story again and play on the original, classic launch version of the game, especially like on the PlayStation 4, and see the, original graphics that were made for the game. And there's games that are only on the PS4 that you can't get on anywhere else. Days Gone is another game. You got Uncharted 4, and those are all single-player games. So there is a really, really big library that you can get to play on the PlayStation 4. And if people can't have access to those games, including myself, we're going to be very, very mad, and Sony will be even a lot more trouble. But there is some good evidence to this. I did read something that Sony is officially working on a future firmware update for the PS4 and PS5 that will completely fix this issue, because it's only because of the trophies. That's the only reason you cannot play your physical, or like your physical games on either the PlayStation 4 and then some on the PlayStation 5, is because you don't have a time set for the trophies to be able to sync up once you unlock them, and it just makes the game not even play. But there, Sony is supposedly is working on a fix for this, thank goodness. But the CMOS battery issue is not the only issue of Sony being greedy. Now, as we noticed this past week, that Sony has been charging developers a revenue crossplay share because they're not getting what they're supposed to be getting, because people have access to play games with their friends that play on other platforms, and they want to force them to buy one of their consoles so they can bring more money to them, and it's an anti-consumer way to be. Like, you're basically just trying to you're being anti-consumer. Like, Nintendo is also a Japanese company, and like I stated on my last video, they are very, very strict too, in a way. Like, you can't even get any refunds for any games. Sony does have a little bit of a better refund policy than Nintendo, but it's still not the greatest. But other than that, with that refund policy that Nintendo does, where you can't even get a refund literally at all, there's been other pro-consumers that Nintendo is being. As you can tell, they're not being greedy with crossplay, and they're being really successful, especially with the Switch. The Switch is almost to 100 million units. It's right now sitting around 80 some or upper 70 millions of units sold. And Nintendo's still being like, yeah, we'll allow crossplay, because they know that as long as they keep making exclusive games like the 3D All-Stars game of Mario 3D for the 35th anniversary, and then Mario 3D World, and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 that's supposed to be coming out here after a while, as long as they keep making these amazing Mario and Zelda, they're amazing IP exclusives, they know that people are going to keep buying their console. So Sony literally does not have nothing to worry about, especially when it comes to selling games and selling hardware. The PlayStation 5 is everyone's favorite next-gen console, including mine. Now I noticed that the Series X is more powerful, but even if the same game came out for the Series X, there has actually been a couple games, Warzone, and also another game that I just read, I forget what it was, but those games can only play 120 FPS on the Series X at 4K. Well, I don't mean only, but they do. But if you play them on the PS5, they only play at 60. That, to me, isn't a big deal. I mean, some people it's going to be a big deal because frame rate is what they truthfully love. But to me, I still think 60 FPS is pretty smooth overall. So I wouldn't mind if a game came out for the PS5 only at 60 FPS and a game came out for the Series X at 120. I wouldn't mind at all. I would still be thankful for the PlayStation 5 to be able to play at like 4K, and the game still, at least it maintaining a more lower, steadier frame rate, which 60 FPS is still pretty darn smooth. When you compare it from 30, it's a big step up. So I personally don't care on the frame rate. As long as it plays at 60 FPS, I'm pretty much covered. But I do like the 120 FPS too, but I'm still 60 I can still be thankful for a whole lot. So the PlayStation 5 is the console that I prefer the most out of next gen, even though I got both of them. But the PS5 is what I love the most. So Sony just needs to seriously they need to seriously think, because it's coming to bite them in the ass like really soon, especially with them being greedy about crossplay, people finding out about a CMOS battery, and them rethinking the decision of closing down the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation Vita stores, and like the CMOS, and people not having access to their games in the future, and then charging for a developer for just to allow crossplay on their platform, whether if it's the PS4 or the PS5. Sony's in a whole world of trouble right now, especially right now under a lawsuit because of PlayStation purchases not being able to have access to digital games at a store. Instead, they want to only make you buy digital stuff like only on their store so they can get money, and that's only on them. I'm telling you, this is what it all started because of the humongous success. And don't get me wrong, the PlayStation 4, in my personal opinion, is the best 8th generation console. Amazing ports of games, even if you play on a base PS4 and not the PS4 Pro, games still look gorgeous. Red Dead Redemption 2 playing at a native 1080p and playing at a still somewhat of a steady 30 FPS, that's still really impressive still to this day. Since the PS4 came out back in 2013, and this is like 2011, 2012, or possibly as late or as early as 2010 hardware. And that's still really impressive in 2021. So the PlayStation 4 is the better overall console when it comes to the Xbox One and the Wii U and all three of the last generation consoles. But like it doesn't look good for Sony. And I know the PlayStation 4 was very, very highly successful, but when stuff comes very successful, this was with Microsoft back in the middle 2000s with the Xbox 360. Xbox 360 came out on top, and it was the better overall console. So Microsoft was greedy and only gave a crap about the money and not the consumer. Now, this past generation, it all went to the other direction. Now Sony was the top dog, and Microsoft was the underdog. And now, when Sony decided to be pro-consumer, guess what? They started being the top dog. And when Microsoft started being the anti-consumer, they came being the underdog. And now, Sony, because of their success, now they're coming back to being anti-consumer, and Microsoft is being pro-consumer. So, I know, it feels like every generation, it's the completely opposite with every company. Sony was the top dog on the PlayStation 2. Microsoft was the top dog on the Xbox 360 over the PS3. Then Sony came back on top again with the PlayStation 4 over the Xbox One. And now Microsoft looks to be more on the top dog of the Xbox Series X over the PlayStation 5. So yeah, these past 3 generations, they have been literally switching back and forth. It'd be Sony on this one, then Microsoft is the next, then back to Sony, and then now back to Microsoft. And I'm telling you, if the companies would just be pro-consumer all over and just keep, making good decisions and not being anti-consumer, well, guess what? We would have a better competition, and both sides of companies would be completely even, and everything would work out at the end. But no, it just seems like nowadays, when one's being the top dog, they go down to being anti-consumer, and then the one that's the underdog ends up being pro-consumer, and then as soon as they win, then they start being anti-consumer, and then the other company starts being pro-consumer. So I'm telling you, man, it's been a weird these last 3 generations of consoles. But no matter what the odds are, PlayStation and Xbox, well, Sony and Microsoft will always remain great companies, no matter what the odds are. Now, I know there's going to be some arguments to be made that Microsoft has done something better than what Sony has done that I possibly don't know about, or Sony's done something better, even with their anti-consumerness that they're being right now, than what Microsoft has done. But either way, these companies make amazing hardware. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are both incredible consoles. These PlayStation 4, the Xbox One are also incredible consoles, as well as the PlayStation 3 and especially the Xbox 360. They're also amazing consoles. I have never been disappointed with no console at all from both of these companies. Even the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X are still incredible consoles, still to this day. No matter what the odds are, one will always be pro-consumer and the other one will be anti-consumer, no matter what the odds are. But as it's turning out right now, Sony's in a lot of trouble right now, and because they're being more anti-consumer and more greedy because of their success, it's getting ready to bite them in the ass within probably in the next year or two. And eventually they're going to go back to being pro-consumer. Or, well, we hope they should. But as long as it keeps biting them in the ass, most likely it will. But Sony just they better think twice before worse decisions that they make in the months coming up. This is Infernal Shard 1 for the win, signing out. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for if you are new to the channel, and you will be sure to be posted with more gaming content and YouTube videos in the future. And also comment down below of your thoughts of the stuff happening with Sony being anti-consumer for the C-bomb issue, the CMOS battery dying, the greedy of charging developers for a fee to allow crossplay, and then whatever else that I said earlier. So just send me down in the comment section down below of your thoughts with Sony being really, really big anti-consumer right now. And just hit a like I said, if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for if you are new to the channel, and make sure to hit that notifications button so you will be notified with every new video that gets uploaded. But without further ado, this is Infernal Shard 1 for the win, signing out. Peace.